If you haven't noticed, the world is changing rapidly, and this presents challenges, but it also brings opportunities. And in this video, I want to talk about my experience over the last 5 years of traveling the world nonstop and living in more than 15 different countries, and everything that I've learned from that experience and what I've taken away and what I want to share here with you, given the changes that are happening, given the different landscape and the different possibilities that are available to us now, and the way that I look at all that. And I have to start from the beginning, at least from the beginning of my shift away from where I was born and raised to this last 5 year sprint or stint of traveling. And it all began with an internal shift because just before the global pandemic, I had two very successful businesses in Canada, and I was living on the west coast of Canada in a little ski town called Whistler. And I was really living the life of my dreams, and I thought that this is where I was going to spend a lot of my life because it had everything. It had the recreation, the culture, the kind of people that I wanted to be around, and I was running the businesses that was really fulfilling to me at the time, and I was also traveling. But of course, then the pandemic hit and everything changed. And I realized that I didn't want to be in the country that I was in. I had also, around that time, met some people and a teacher that I was really drawn to and I was really resonating with. And I found out that they lived together at a monastery in Europe. And at the time, I was starting to work with them more and more, and I was invited over, and I ended up moving there when the lockdowns happened. And I lived there for 6 months. And that was a radical change in my life. That was a dramatic shift in my consciousness. And I started to recalibrate and realign all the aspects of my life, my beliefs, my priorities, my habits, my choices in terms of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I decided that I was going to shut down my businesses in Canada and I was going to prioritize my calling, that inner gift and service that I was really feeling called to embody and to share. And this led me on a few years of traveling within Europe and beyond, that really had me dive deep into this calling and this service, which is mostly now what I'm embodying and what I'm sharing. A lot of the YouTube videos that I'm making are about specifically what I have come to realize and understand about who I am and the nature of reality and perhaps the purpose of this human life. And all of that was discovered in the last few years and understood and realized in this journey. And when I left the monastery after 6 months, I had a completely different outlook on life and the world and moving about this and what was important and what was meaningful to me. And so I had packed up everything back in Whistler and left my life in Canada. And I started a kind of pilgrimage or an adventure through the world. And I had traveled to South Africa and Tanzania and various countries in Europe and England, and traveled through the United States. And then I spent multiple months in Colombia and Mexico, and then Indonesia and Vietnam and many other countries in between. And the one thing that I've experienced in all of this travel and all of this different living environments is that first and foremost, home is where I am. I am home. And what I mean by that specifically is that no matter where I am in the world, no matter what I've experienced or what's happening around me, there is the one truth, which is that safe haven. It is that pure bliss. It is that resting space, which is always with me. And it is I am that I am. It is the pure recognition that I exist. It is that deep, profound comfort of my presence, which is life itself, which is consciousness, awareness. It is that love of being. And you see, that being that each and every one of us is not bound to anywhere. It is not conditioned to anything. It is not limited in any way. And that's the first thing that I came to in this journey, is that where I am, who I am, is the only thing that's really needed as a recognition, as an alignment, in order to feel safe and secure, alive, fulfilled, at peace, in joy, and in love. It is that inherent and innate freedom that no matter where I am and what I'm experiencing, it is the one thing that I can rely on. It is the most dependable truth because it is the truth of who and what I am. And so I say this as context because it becomes the experience that I experienced everywhere that I went. Because whether it was a few weeks in a location or a few months or even longer, a year or more, in one of these different countries, for example, Portugal, I spent over a year in, and Holland, I've spent almost a year in, and now in Vietnam for going to be 6 months by the time I leave. And everywhere I've gone to, I've felt at home. And that's not because of anything that the place offers necessarily, even though many of the cultures are beautiful and the people are gorgeous and the amenities and the experience and the luxuries that it may offer is wonderful to have. You know, the access to nature and beaches and forests and mountains are all wonderful experiences, but none of them in and of themselves offer that quality of home, because home is what you make it. Home is a quality of your beingness. Home is an attitude. Home is an energy that you cultivate within your own experience. And so that's the first thing that I want to emphasize here, is that wherever you're drawn to, or wherever you are currently residing, or whatever resonates, whatever your guidance is showing you, home is what you cultivate. Home is that feeling within yourself, which is always already accessible in this moment. And when you master that, when you cultivate that quality of being able to bring home to wherever you are, then you are free, truly free. And then you're actually relatively in the world free to go wherever you want and bring that experience of home, that connection within yourself and to everyone that you meet, and that sense of safety and security that emanates out of your energy field, out of your presence, which then in a way actually protects you and buffers you against anything that you wouldn't want to experience. And that's the nature of law of attraction, is that you're always attracting to you what you're vibrating. Like attracts like. And so when you are so at home with yourself, so at home with wherever you are and what you're experiencing, then in truth, nothing negative in that sense can affect you. Nothing can harm you. Nothing can come at you and take anything away from you, because you are already whole. And that's the beautiful truth of recognizing and aligning with I am. That is the great alignment with your true self. And that is pure magic. It is pure possibility. And it's what also brings synchronicities to you. Those little opportunities, those little nudges, the guidance that's leading you down this street or this alley or this direction when you didn't think that it was the logical or the reasonable way to go. But then you meet this person, or you stumble across this place, or you happen onto this beautiful little cafe or this little shop or whatever it is. You little coincidences that happen along the way that are just pure magic and pure bliss, and they just make everything so beautiful. And that's that quality of home, that when you are like a child, roaming around and moving around and lost in your own imagination of that bliss and that love and that joy and that sense of possibility, then everything that you experience outside you is going to be a reflection of that inner world, that inner reality, that inner sense of being at home. And it is a self-love, it is a self-acceptance, but not the kind that we see on social media, or, that kind of trendy kind of activities and things that we can do to love ourselves. Those are beautiful, those are a part of it, but that's an outward expression of the self-love that I'm talking about, which is the self-realization. It is the recognition of your true self, which is timeless, limitless, boundless. It is a causeless joy. It is an unconditional love. And that's why it's wholeness. That's why it is that self-love. It is a self-sourced experience. And so that's then what spills out into your reality. It spills out into the experience of others around you. It is that magnetic, contagious sort of rubbing off of that energy, which is so palpable. And so that's really the main point behind this message, is that once I realized that there's nothing actually out here that I'm directly experiencing, that it's actually a reflection of my own energy, my own thinking, my own feeling, my own belief. And it's always a reflection of the relationship that I have with myself in any given moment, that really allowed me to see that the world is a playground and that I could travel anywhere and I could follow the guidance that I'm being given through my emotional guidance system and my inspiration. And I could trust that that inspiration was a sort of divine guidance. It was a direct communication from my higher self, that if I acted upon it with trust and conviction and faith, that I would be supported. And every step of the way, regardless of my doubt or my insecurity or my fear, I was provided for, I was supported, and everything unfolded in a really magical, synchronistic way. Even if I couldn't plan or predict or prepare for what was about to come, it always seemed to work out. The more I cultivated that frequency of home, of being at home within myself, and the more I acted upon that inspiration, the more crazy it all became in a beautiful, magical way. And when I look back on the last 5 years of traveling the world and experiencing all the cultures and the peoples of this planet, and really opening myself up to foreign, alien experiences, and really getting a sense and a feel for what it means to be human, what it means to be on Earth, and getting outside of the limiting beliefs and the sort of boundaries of my comfort zone and familiarity, that really opened me up to all that life has to offer and all that humanity really is and all that the future holds as a possibility in terms of what humanity really desires, what the world is calling out for, and what we are all collectively moving towards. And I feel that I have a better sense of that now more than ever. And despite the state of the world and all the troubling, unsettling things that may seem to be happening, in traveling the world and in connecting with so many different people, and now with this growing YouTube channel of almost 20,000 subscribers in less than a year of sharing these videos, I have come to a pretty good sense, I think, of the kind of world that I wish to create and the kind of state that we're in right now and the gap between those two. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's why I'm traveling in the way that I am, and that's why I want to connect with more of you. So I would love to hear where you are watching these videos from. And if you want to share in the comments below where you're watching from and what your experience is of that area and what your desires are in terms of where you want to go and what you want to do and what kind of a future you want to create, then I would love to hear it, because I think together we can co-create a beautiful, harmonious world, and to support each other in being able to make the choices that lead to the kind of reality and the kind of life that we want to create and live for ourselves. And so if you have this dream of traveling or creating the life of your imagination, then I would really encourage you to act on your inspiration. Trust yourself, even if you don't feel that you're ready or that you're capable yet or that you have the right resources. That if you can cultivate a self-trust, then I think you will surprise yourself. You will shock yourself. You will be amazed at what becomes possible when you just have faith and you act on your inspiration and you trust in that guidance. And it may not be what you expect, but I have a feeling that if you are willing to take that risk, which is not really a risk once you take it, but it seems that way from the fear that's stopping you. But once you take that first step and you see that the ground appears under each step that you take, I think you will start to believe beyond what the mind has been trying to convince you is possible. And I think you will really be grateful that you stuck your neck out there and that you took that step. And I wish nothing more or less than that for you, which is the pure possibility of your own potential, of all that you are unfolding before you. And I know that you deserve that and much more. So here's to your journey ahead.